Hello everyone, a very good evening. Welcome to InstaClass by Amity Online. Like every day at 5 p.m. sharp, we bring you some amazing informative sessions, and today is one such day. Today we will be talking about one of the most asked questions about business English and how exactly is it different from general English or the spoken English that we use. Now, English, since it is not our native language, we find it difficult to learn and maybe put it to practice every now and then. Now, in this class, I'll be answering some of the common questions and your roadmap ahead that how exactly you need to distinguish between the two and learn business English. My name is Jasmeen, and let's start. Now, the first things first, what makes business English different from our conversational or spoken English that we generally use? First thing is business jargons, and that is the vocabulary that we use. In business, there are certain terms and phrases that are quite used frequently, and therefore we need to be aware of those terms. For example, the word you must have heard multiple times while you were sitting for an interview or maybe reading a magazine or a business article, and that is leverage. Leverage. To take an advantage of something good to build something even better. To leverage your skills, leverage your experience, so on and so forth. Number two, synergy. Now, whenever two people are put in one team, they have to work in synergy. Their synergies have to match. So, which means that if they both are working individually, they don't work quite well, but then when they're put across in a same team, they work amazingly. Now, these are some examples of corporate jargons that we use today. These keep on changing every now and then, but the base and the crux of it remains the same, and that is terms like paradigm shift, terms, some marketing has their own terms, human resources have their own terms. So, all of these terms and jargons and corporate phrases are very important in business English. You need to learn the vocabulary in a different way. Now, whenever we sit to learn English language, there is one thing that we all do. We sit with a diary, and whenever we come across a new word, we quickly learn it, write it down, and then use it. And once we have used it, it somewhat retains in our minds. Same goes for corporate jargons. Now, I'm not telling you to learn each and every word that is in and around business, but yes, you can definitely try and learn some of the basic corporate jargons and primarily the most common ones. Not only will they help you in your interviews, but they will also help you once you're put on the job and you're performing. Since these people that are there in the corporate or the business environment already, your subordinates and your superiors, they would be already using these terms. Number two is the abbreviations. In business English, you would come across while writing an email, there will be so many abbreviations that you haven't heard outside. Why? Because they are again centered to a business or a corporate setting. For example, OOO means out of office, EOD means end of the day, so on and so forth. So there is a whole list of abbreviations that you need to learn. Moving on to number three. Now, this is very important. The basic difference between business English and the general English that we use in our daily lives is the way you speak it. Yes, the tonality. Now, in English, we have already talked about that how important prosody is, that is the style and how you need to emphasize here and there and stress on certain syllables. Same goes for business English, but in business English the tone is softened and it is subtle, which means that you need to tone it down a bit. While you're speaking, we need to make sure that the tone itself is very humble, is very grounded. Why? Because this is the way we put across our words in a respectful manner so that it makes sure that the person we are talking to is well respected and we are well welcomed. And how do we do that? Yes, toning down our way of speech. You need to go slow, take your pauses, and deliver it in a softened tone. Number three. Now, this is all. Number four is also very important point. Now we have talked about tone and everything, but there is one technical thing also in place when we deal with business English, and that is of the kind of grammar that we use and the sentence structure. Which means that maybe outside the corporate setting, you are sitting in a college classroom, and you want somebody to pass you a pen. You will simply say, "Could you give me that pen?" Or you would simply say that, "Give me that pen," rather. The difference between the two is of a modal verb, that is, would you. And these modal verbs come very handy when we deal with business English. You need to exactly pay attention on such modal verbs, primarily because they help you to frame your questions better. Now, every now and then, there will be a situation when you need to ask something from your subordinate or your supervisor. Doesn't really matter because the tone remains the same. You have to put it across respectfully, and you also want that person to answer you that question. And how are we going to do that? We need to again ask very politely. And polite in tone, we, it is very easy to tone it down, but when it comes to vocabulary and modal verbs, we need to constantly remind ourselves that no, this is how we need to frame our questions. For example, would you mind passing me that pen? Would you be able to give in that file that I gave you at the end of the day? So on and so forth. But keep one thing in your mind, and that is framing sentence structures properly. In conversational English, we don't really pay much attention to how exactly we are framing our sentences and arranging the words properly or grammatically correct or not. But in business English, it becomes vital, and it is highly imperative, and it is always advisable to do that. Again, because we are in a professional setting, everything changes. Now you have to work on your communication to an extent that whatever you are saying, what is there in your mind, you have to put it across exactly the way it is. And therefore, after all these five topics that I've talked about, how exactly they are different and how you need to approach business English, there are some tips that you need to keep in mind while you learn business English and you apply primarily. Number one being of very basic communication. That is, in business communication, what happens is something that is in our mind is not always how we put it across. And that is exactly you need to work on. Whenever you are speaking, whenever you're framing your sentences or putting across a piece of information that was there in your head and now you want the other person to understand it, you always find it difficult to articulate your thoughts and chronologically put it across. Therefore, how can we do it correctly? Now sit back, relax, don't let your nerves take all of your anxiety triggered, and while you speak with the end in mind, that what exactly do you want to put across? What is the end game of it? What is the crux of all the ideas you're talking about? For example, today I am talking about business English. So while I'm talking, I will be constantly reminding myself that this is what the topic is. Whatever I say should be in and around that. And I will also keep in mind the base of what I have decided for this Insta class. This exactly goes on how you need to approach business English. That is, work on your communication, and the basic skill of it is to put across a thought exactly as it is in our mind. And while we speak, this thought becomes disoriented. You need to have it packed, and how you can constantly remind to your subconscious mind that one idea that you want to put across by the end of the talk. This works immensely, not only in your business English, but also in your general English. But in business, it becomes extremely important, and that is why it was important to put it across. This brings us to the end of our Insta class for today. My name is Jasmeen. I'm a British Council certified English language expert, and I've been working in this industry for the past 4 years. And I love interacting with students, and it was an amazing experience being here. Thank you so much for having me.